Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the KB Show. I've got my man Chico on with me. Welcome, brother. How are you, man?
Welcome, brother. How are you? I thought you'd have an intro song.
Oh, a little interesting. Huh? We got one that comes before, like on YouTube. It's like you're now listening to the KB Show. But yeah, nothing on the dials or anything like that. But yeah, Chico's on today. He is going to be, or you're not going to play your first game this week. It's going along whenever the weather comes good. But super exciting, man. Obviously, coming through the other side, you got so much to look forward to now, and I'm really rooting for you, and I can't wait to see you back out there, bro. But we're going to talk about your story leading up to it and just a little bit of a background. So maybe just, kick it off from like the early days of back in PNG, brother.
Early days back in PNG, all right. So I was born in Papua New Guinea, Goroka, which is in the highlands in PNG. Born there. Went to school. Went to kindergarten, and from kindergarten moved over to Australia. Yeah. The reason why I moved over to Australia, my dad owned like a sort of like a BWS, alcohol distributing company. Yeah, okay. It's probably where I get my entrepreneur skills from, because he was quite an entrepreneur himself. He owned like a BWS similar type thing. He was into like.
And this was in Queensland?
No, this is in Papua New Guinea. In Papua New Guinea, yeah. So okay. he first off started off writing for the paper, for the Post Courier career. He was and before that he was a well-known rugby league player. Played for the Kumals and playing like like other Papua New Guinea players that's played footy before, and playing footy for Papua New Guinea or the Comores is like a high achievement in the country. It's definitely up there with close to being like a politician, or because you've got so much power as well. And
bro, you see some of the footage of like when Australia, like the Prime Minister's 13 goes over there, and it's just like chaos in the streets, man. It's just that nuts. I love it over there, eh?
So yeah, he was a pretty handy player, and from that he built sort of a name up for himself, and then went into sports journalist sort of thing, and then he ended up venturing into sort of buying empty bottles and then reselling them back to like a 4X sort of type company where they use the bottles again and then they fill it up. Oh, yeah. So he was into that, and then he ended up becoming a distributor of becoming like a BWS through that. So then him and my mum created this business called Negasor Distributors. Ended up being pretty wealthy, like very good business orientated people, and then from there he ended up owning nightclubs and into a logging company and whatsoever, so forth and so forth. So what happened was, previous to us moving over to Australia to Cairns, my dad ended up getting robbed. Yeah, like he was back in the day. He used to go to the banks every Friday with the cash, and used to be with like cash, and then used to deposit that way instead of So anyway, long story short, ended up sort of in a scuffle, almost getting robbed, all his money, and then he just like straight away, man, this place ain't good enough for my kids. I want to move them over to Australia. And previous to that, he's always visited Australia, visited around the world, and anything he's saw that caught his eye, he'd try to bring back over to Papua New Guinea and implement that in his business. Yep. So when we had like lodges and like clubs and stuff, he'd bring on ideas from overseas, inspiration to try implement it into Papua New Guinea or into his
it's a mad idea.
Business. So from that I was up till 6. I moved over up till 6. We ended up, that incident happened with my dad almost getting robbed, and we moved over to Cairns. And from that, my dad did move over. My mum and my brothers and sisters moved over to Cairns. We bought like land, bought a house, built a house. So it was me, my two other brothers, and me, my one other brother, and three other sisters. Yeah.
So what a family, man.
Yeah, and the family, it's very massive. It's very big, the family. Yeah. And then so my mum stayed with us, and my dad used to fly in, fly out from Papua New Guinea, and from that, my mum was very Seventh-day Adventist, so it was very religious. So we weren't allowed to play. with Seventh-day Adventists, this is to my understanding. Forgive me if I get this wrong, but till Friday, till like Saturday afternoon. Friday straight after finish school till Saturday afternoon, you don't do anything but go to church.
Yeah,
it's very strict. It's like
I've heard like
it's actually like I'm gonna say it because I've been in it. It's like a cult. You know what I mean? Like I'm not here to. I'm gonna say from my experience, it's like a cult, man. Like. So at a very young age, moved over when I was 6 and wasn't allowed to play sports. So anything that has anything to do with sports, anything fun really, we weren't allowed to do. But as the years progressed, obviously my mum got a little bit more relaxed in the westernized culture.
Yeah.
And then when I was 8, my dad took me and my brother to the closest rugby league club and signed us up, which was called Ivanhoe's Knights. And from that sort of from there, I met my now pretty much my now sort of step parents.
Yep.
The step mum and dad. So through one of my mates that I was that I played footy with in the team, it was his mum and dad. So his name's Trent Barnard, and then I met, Dean and Sue Barnard, which are now my mum and dad. And from that footy club, just ended up meeting them, and then, just ended up meeting them, and then obviously our relationship grew, and me and my mate Trent, our relationship grew. But previous to that, to how I ended up calling them mum and dad was so when we moved over. When my dad was still living in Papua New Guinea, the business that he had ended up going bankrupt. So about within 2 years that we moved over, so this is 1996 that we moved over. So around 1998, he started to understand there was people stealing money within the business, and he started slowly going bankrupt. So anyone that's an international student wouldn't understand how expensive it is for school fees, especially for like 5 kids.
Yeah.
Do you have to go to a private school? You can't go to a public school.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know. The laws might have changed now, but I'm not too sure. But this is back in the day. So it was like very expensive, and also you got to think about the exchange rate to Kina to dollars. But like Kina back in them days wasn't too bad. It was almost like 1-to-1. Yep. And obviously as the years progressed, it ended up becoming like $3 to 1 Kina. I mean, 3 Kina to $1, and obviously so forth to what it is now. But for a long period of time, till about 1990, till about 2003. So all throughout that period from 1996 till 2003, like my dad was slowly going bankrupt, and then 2003, that's when it sort of hit. So that's what it hit when my dad went like bankrupt, and we couldn't afford to go to school at all. So what happened was when financial difficulties happen within obviously a marriage, and they're not like, when the husband's not around much or whatever, like my mum and dad were struggling before the financial difficulties because, he was never around, and my mum had to be like a mum and dad at the same time because, he was living in Papua New Guinea, so she had to, take on the discipline roles as well as, the nurturing roles. And to be honest, to her, like it would be very difficult because she didn't have any sort of any family to help her. And with like Pacific Islanders, they're very family orientated, and they need, like when you're bringing up a child, they always have like the sisters or the brothers to look after. It's always a community.
Like the village, like sort of brings us up.
Yeah. So a lot of us, like a lot of issues in the sense of us being not having that mother-son emotional connection was probably because of that, because she had to worry about mother, siblings or whatever, and she didn't know like exactly how to be a dad as well and process all that. So so they ended up, my mum and dad ended up sort of splitting up, and then my mum remarried or like got into another relationship with the Aussie fella, and they ended up having a baby around that 2003 year or whatever. And in that time, like a lot of things happened. I'm sort of glossing over everything. But at that sort of time, the 2003 year, we couldn't afford to go to school. So my siblings ended up moving over with my auntie in like Darwin.
Yep.
And I was like the only one with my mum and now newly partner. And my mum had this relationship with a new partner, and they ended up having, a kid, and further down they got married or whatever. So, in that type of sort of in that sense, I felt that like my siblings sort of left me, and then my mum had her relationship. So I was like that's where a lot of my I've noticed a lot of my detachment anxiety comes from. So a lot of my insecurities as well, a lot of things that I do, and I'm willing to sort of identify that, and I'm obviously still working on it, and I understand that's where it came from, but also it allowed me to create the person you see now to be like so driven and so like goal orientated, to obviously be like tell myself when I was at that age, like when I was like 12, 13, saying to me against the world, I'm gonna like I'm gonna win, or I'm gonna fucking show these people like who I am, or show my dad, or show my siblings like you leave me, I'm gonna like be this person. So, and I felt like my mum as well had her sort of life, and I was sort of like no one wanted me.
Yep.
And then what luckily happened was, because I created such a good relationship with my mate Trent Barnard, I always used to like, the only things that I look forward to during the week, because we didn't have school, was Tuesday, Thursdays, because Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays / the weekend, because that's when we had footy. And a lot of values that I got out of, values that I still have now, is because of that footy club. So anyone that says like grassroots footies and like grassroots football footy clubs, it's the people within them that make it so much enjoyable for the people that attend, also that create values within like each individual that rock up, and they pay registration for $80 to play for the weekend. Like, it's such a small thing, but like you set up their life to become you could become like someone like myself, or like someone that's successful in other areas, or you have it might be small, but like the impact you have on someone. Because that footy club allowed me to have a broader knowledge of what's it like in the real world, in the sense of you have to like work hard to get to where you want, or you have to have like dedication. And like, so I used to see these mums used to rock up to the footy, the ones that helping the touch up and that. And
I reckon they're like the most important people.
They are exactly.
Because you talk about community, they're just giving up their time, literally just volunteers. And it's like, as you said, that's what builds a community around us. Like, people want to work hard for no money. It's just for literally giving back to the kids that are there.
Exactly.
It's a powerful experience.
It's very powerful. And then I used to know, because I felt so individualized in my home at that time.
That was your little community.
That was my little community. So I would see how the mums used to interact with the other kids, and how they used to treat me as well, and that nurturing feeling. I never really got that from my mum at that time, because part of it was because she was handling her stuff, and like how she's dealing with her own issues, and like obviously I was a bit too young, and I was a lot of it was because I was just so feeling sorry for myself all the time, because I didn't have what this kid had or whatever. So that footy club allowed me to have certain values to become the person I am now. And anyway, so I developed a relationship with my best mate, or like my brother. It's my brother. It's his grandfather. It's like brother Trent Barnard. And then they used to ask me, like, because I used to go up to training every day, every Tuesday, Thursday, and she's like, try to be cool and put the facade on, put this other mask, or this what I'm saying, like, yeah, WAG's cool. But it was insecurity of myself, because I couldn't afford it.
Yep.
And like just like any kid,
it's a hard thing for it's a hard thing to do. What were you, 13 years old?
13, 12. But that's the puberty part when you start slowly going to parties, and you start like start liking girls, and you yourself, you're thinking, man, this guy's got nice shirt, like this guy's got the cool brand new boots, and I've got these Dunlops, or
that's exactly around the time of like when you're going into high school and stuff as well, and you're figuring out like what friendship group you're going to be in, and then you start to split into like the cool kids, and 100%, man, that'd be a tough time.
Yeah, but like I like that. So I used to go to training Tuesday, Thursday, saying to everyone else, oh yeah, no, WAG's cool. Try to be cool. Try to put the facade on, and then slowly after time, I used to go over to my mate, my brother's house, Trent, and every weekend spend it every weekend. And my dad now, Dean, started getting curious. And he's like, what's going on? So we went out for Father's Day lunch one weekend, and I ended up breaking down and telling him, I said, look, this is what happened. I was so embarrassed, crying, like so embarrassed, and pardon me. And then Susan's my mum, Susan and Dean's like, no, it's not right. And then they had a word to Trent and Taylor, my other little brother, and they said, like, we're thinking of, can Chico move in? We'd ask you first, and they're like, yeah, 100%. So from that period on, I moved in with my step parents now at their place, and sort of it was sort of a weird sort of transition, because as soon as I moved in, everything started. It's like when you manifest something, and when you say to the universe yes, and you accept it, and you believe in it, everything just started, like one thing led to another. So like one thing led to another, to where I was able to go to school. Like we end up getting permanent resident, and end up going to school, and then so that little thing ticked off, so that I was going to school every day. That's felt a bit more normal. Like, didn't feel so ashamed, and then, Dean and Sue, mum and dad, like they done everything in their power. They used to get up like everything in their power for me to be to like have the things that normal kids have. For instance, like, and that's like the sort of the values that I was instilled in, because like my mum used to get up like an hour, fucking makes me upset now because I appreciate her so much. She used to get up an hour, like 5 o'clock, to make my lunch, and this is something simple, like make our lunch, so we have lunch every morning without that. And just like from my dad used to go to work like sometimes Sundays, and I just seen how hard he worked, and just this gave me the values that I needed to therefore like succeed in whatever I wanted to do. And then after I was sort of experiencing that, and then every time I I didn't know how I'm gonna I always like to think to myself, how am I gonna repay these people? Like they're doing this thing, like they don't ask for nothing. You know what I mean? They just love me. They genuinely love me. And then like from like going to school to like slowly, because I wasn't very good when I was young. I was good, but I wasn't like a standout. Like all these kids I used to get picked for rec teams, and then sort of from that time when I got when I moved in my step parents, it just catapulted me start playing better footy. And the next minute I used to see how proud they were every time like I finished playing, and the gratification I used to get, it was just like a drug, bro. Like they used to be like, oh, I'm so proud, he's played a good game. And then from then on, I just needed that, and it was in a way sort of feeding my ego as well, to be this person.
Yep.
That was feeding that like me against the world sort of type of mindset.
Well, you're sort of trying to obviously find your way as a kid when you're talking about it before, and then you get these gratification from these people that you're a good player, and then you obviously start to see how proud they are, and as you said, how you're going to repay these people, and it's like all of a sudden your identity is like you're Chico who's like a gun at rugby league, and you know what I mean, and then you just want to keep that going because that's your identity. Yeah,
and then that was pretty much right, and then from that obviously I just like kept making rep teams and whatever, and a significant time that stood out where I knew I was like, okay, I'm gonna I'm actually better than a lot of people. Like I'm actually probably gonna play NRL, or not play NRL, but like I knew I was
on that sort of path.
I was just on when you're on such a higher confidence, it was like a sort of like a test event. Am I gonna actually play NRL? And like I ended up, it was like this game that South Juniors. came up to play our like a Cairns team. So South Juniors take a team away every year, and South Rugby League, South NRL to South Juniors are completely two different entities.
Yep.
Because South Juniors is like massive, and they've got like so much, like they're well built. So they used to take up juniors all the time, and one of the players were playing hooker at the time, so they came and played us up. We had like a little Cairns rep versus it must be Harold Matts, and they had like a couple of mixed players in.
Yep.
2 players played in that. Dom Walsh, who was a gun back in the day, and Nathan Peets.
Yeah, Peets.
Yeah. So we played up in Cairns, and I ended up getting man of the match, and I played a very good game, and that's when that was an instant moment. Like I was like, man, if I can mix it with these Sydney kids, and there was like a South and like obviously a South team, it was like, yeah, I can because when you're a country kid and you're so far away, you think Sydney's probably like America to us. You know what I mean? Yeah. We're just like a couple of hillbillies or so to speak. So like when you see like kids from Sydney, you're like, oh my God, he's so big or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they came up and played, and I like ended up getting man of the match, and that sort of like ignites something. I was like, man, I can mix it with these kids, and I can like go further.
You get the man of the match, yeah.
Yeah, got the man of the match, and then from that, obviously, I got an invitation to go to one of the camps.
Yep.
So one of the camps was at Russell Coast Farm at Coffs Harbour.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so that was I think that was 2006 or 2007. I think it's off season 2006. Boom. They ended up paying, because I was going to a state school at the time. They ended up paying for my school fees to go to this private school in Cairns called St. Augustine's, and it was like a footy school. So yeah, so I ended up like signing South, committing to South, and moved down to played all that year in 2007 for school. Ended up being a very good year for me. Made like this Queensland merit team for confraternity, which is like it's like confraternity is all the Catholic schools. Like so, like Benny Hunt was in the team.
So it's like a lead into Australian schoolboys.
Yeah, but like it's a merit team. You don't play anyone.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
yeah.
So, but it was a good like gratification. You know what I mean? Like,
just
you know what I mean?
Acknowledged.
Because like in confraternity, like Benny Hunt was the king. You know what I mean? And like Andrew McCulloch went to another school, which wasn't like a Catholic school. This was all for Catholic schools. So, I played that year 2007, like making that team, and then the following year, that November, I ended up moving down, signing with South, and moving down and to play 20s for the first off season for 20s, and this
is down at South.
Yeah, this is down South. Moved to Mascot. Yep. I think the first 2 to 3 weeks, I just cried every night.
Yeah, what was it like when it's in like just been away from family? Was it?
Yeah, like it was just because at the time I had my first ever girlfriend, my first love. So I thought me and her were gonna get married.
The hardest,
you know what I mean?
And
then like when I moved down, because like around that times when you like in preseason starts, you miss out on like schoolies.
Yeah.
You miss out on when that's the time where all your mates are just like a couple are turning 18, so they're out clubbing. And meanwhile, I'm
new
training.
Phase of the life that you're kind of missing without them.
Yeah. You think like when you're in that period, you just think like you're missing out on so much. And like I remember like one of the worst nights I wish I was like I never was in Sydney. It was like the heartbreak night where my ex, like my first ever love at the time, all my mates were there, and they're like, oh, the ex is here or whatever, like I'm not an ex but your girl's here, whatever, and they're all just, this time we don't have FaceTime or anything, so you're just on the phone, and it had the
hearing shit in the background, what's that?
Yeah. And then anyway, like the next day I was trying to call her or whatever, and they ended up telling me, oh man, I kissed another guy and everything, and I was like, how could you do this? You know what I mean? Like I was so heartbroken. I was like, I want to go home.
Yeah.
But like,
first heartbreak's the hardest.
Oh man, 100%. But then like in a way, it's sort of fueled this like fire of it. It was one of one of the insignificant moments, sort of like when my brothers and sisters left me because they ignite something. And it's a really bad cycle I go through sometimes where it takes me back to the moment where it's my like insecurity where the moment where I was abandoned. So it takes me back to that moment where I'm just like, oh, it's me against the world. Fuck everyone. I'll beat everyone. I can do this for myself. So it took me back to the moment when I was like, you know what? I'm going to show her. So I'll go on overdrive. I'm just going like,
it's hard,
everything focused on footy.
It's one of those tough things. And like, I feel like we got not the same, but similar sort of story in the sense of like my parents split up and then I had a stepdad and I was the only child. Yeah. Like from my mum's previous marriage to like my dad. And so I understand that like perspective of like it's you against the world type of thing. And it's hard, man, because when you sort of, as you spoke about just then, when you sort of do go through that heartbreak or that separation, it's like it gives you that fire and then it almost gives you that energy and you can channel that tunnel vision. Because as you said, before that you were like sort of crying every night and like you were upset to obviously leave your girlfriend, and then that happens and it's like, all right, tunnel vision goes back on. But at the same time, it's like you're also pushing people away as well, which is like, this sounds like the tough thing, man. But yeah, speak us through like sort of what happens the next. Obviously you split and then you went tunnel vision.
I went tunnel vision, and like all throughout my life and certain periods, I can now sit back and I've been doing a lot of like work on myself, like counseling wise, and understand, identify their moments. So like after that happened, I went boom, tunnel vision. And at the same time, I pushed a lot of people away as well. Like in terms of like my support network and my parent, like my biological mom and my siblings, and all through that period where I was I pushed them away. And just like, oh, you guys didn't want me, like you guys didn't want to be around when I was, going through struggles, me against the world, whatever, like, fuck yous all. So anyway, so...
you think you need that for the energy, right? You think you need that for I get it.
It's you think that makes you weak, but actually it makes you better all-around person and makes you have more empathy. And I'm still trying to deal with that, trying to have more empathy. But played SG ball. We had like a decent year. Adam Reynolds was in our team. Kane Morgan was in our team.
He's had a good team.
Yeah, we had a decent. Didn't
they go on to like win? They went
the 20s. They went to the grand final with the Warriors. Ended up winning.
Yeah.
So that was the year I left. So what happened was, I got in, played all SG ball, and then from SG ball played a handful of 20s game in the back end of the year. I won't go into what happened, but put it this way, I was a boy from the country, big lights, big smoke, ended up, getting a bit too much mischief and ended up getting let go from South because I was with South for 2 years. And then luckily enough, probably like a blessing in disguise happened. A manager got me a deal up in North Queensland with the Cowboys. And obviously my parents at the time, my step-parents, mum and dad, they're like, mate, we need you. You need to come home because obviously what happened, I got let go from South, so they were devastated as well. And I feel I feel upset, not upset. I feel bad because a lot of blame they would have put on themselves because I came here by myself, and they sort of felt like, with parents, like I can identify it now. They're like, you sometimes got to let the kid grow and make his own mistakes, but if you're
they're trying to protect you.
And a lot of them, my dad would blame himself for not being there or whatever, whatever issue it was, but it just, I had to go through it.
100%, yeah, 100%. You have to go through it, yeah.
And end up signing with the Cowboys for 2 years. And went up there, and I actually knew a lot of boys. And when the Cowboys, so it was sort of like the stable community that I needed.
Yeah. That's the sort of closest place to Cairns, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Like an NRL team. 100%.
Exactly. And growing up, I was really good mates with Matty Bowen's nephew. So we used to go to Matty Bowen's farm when I was younger and interact with him. And he was one of my idols growing up. And, every time, we get a free weekend in Cairns, we'd drive down to Townsville, which is 4 hours, and watch the Cowboys play and whatnot. So, ended up playing 20s for 2 years, and obviously what the reasons why I got let go of South is was because, you know, I was misbehaving or whatever, or what I was doing I wasn't lining up with the club values. And when I came up to Cowboys, like, it doesn't matter. What the Cowboys do so well, they're such a good community. It's like, I've nothing but praise for that organization. It's amazing from a star player like Jonathan Thurston down to the last player. Everyone's equal in that sense. You know what I mean? The interaction with the first grade to the 20s, even to the boys that come in off like if they're scholarship or whatever, it's so close. Like, you know, we interact because Townsville's small as well. So there's no egos. Obviously, because Sydney's a very diverse place. Like, everyone lives an hour, 2 hours sometimes. So within Townsville, it's like everyone's under the same sort of, you know, same sort of town. And I found like a family within a family, definitely in Townsville. And like, I felt that it was the perfect opportunity for me to actually grow and like get more confidence and become like, you know, the player that I was, that was able to make my debut. Yeah. And, you know, and
there's something about those like one team towns. Because I spent a bit of time in Melbourne, and it's like, because everyone comes there and generally there's no like real Melbourne juniors or anything like that. So a lot of people are fly-ins. So you don't have, as you said, like people live in Sydney, they'll be like an hour here, hour there. So in there, it's like you very much have to rely on your teammates as like your family, because you don't have your family there. You don't have your old friends there. You don't have like the local places that you live at. You like all pretty much just live together and you rely on each other a lot. But it does make for a special time of like how tight-knit everyone is, and like when you have to travel so much as well, coming from North Queensland, it's like, so it does make everything super tight-knit, which would have been like almost like a community feel that you would have felt when you first started playing footy.
Exactly. And another thing also, when I was in Sydney, it was like such a culture shock because like I had to go to work and take the train here, train there, and it was, because I was from Cairns, I wasn't used to just a whole hustle and bustle, and it was sort of like smack bang right in my face when I was like 16. So at that time, I could not handle it whatsoever, and it was overwhelming for me. And like being able to go back to Townsville, and like one thing that does stand out within, like you were saying, like within community of like them, one team, one town, like everyone helps each other. Like for instance, a new player would come, and then like straight away boys would be ringing them up saying, "Oh, do you need my ute to move your car? Or do you need someone needing a lawnmower because I've got a lawnmower?" Like it was just, you know, and everyone was just helping each other out, and because
they all know what it's like to move up there. They're like,
exactly.
They're like, "Fuck, actually, I needed that." So you're reaching out,
Because like and then I had so much growing up to do, and it was like the perfect opportunity for me to grow up because. Like I was making silly decisions when I was in Sydney, and that's what happened. That's what made me, you know, go up to Townsville, and then being up there for 4 years. Played 2009 to 2010, and then 11-12 signed another 2 years. 2011 round 3 was able to make a debut.
Big debut,
and and then played 2012, but like I'll go back forward to my debut year, 2010. I was got in the the 20s team of the year, so that was sort of like a big achievement. And then sort of the momentum for me to, you know, even though like 20s, like it's good, but like you
still a next level.
There's still another level, and you know it's my first off season with grade, and then I was coming from shoulder surgery. And you still second guess yourself. I don't think until like 50 games in, you still second guess yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, so my debut, I'll tell you about how my debut game came around. We had like a tough session. It was a Monday or whatever. But like the previous week I played for Northern Pride, which was the cup team that's affiliated with Cowboys. So played in like ended up scoring two tries, and this is like my second game off my shoulder reco. And personally, to myself, I was nowhere near. ready, like, because I was still like thinking about my shoulder, and like I didn't think I was ready to play first grade. You know, I was like, okay, played about 40 minutes, still not up to my standards. So I was still
just let me ease in a little bit.
Ease
into it a little bit.
Yeah. Anyway, I had like this session on had a tough session on a Monday, and I've gone home to sleep. Gone home to have a sleep, and then get this call comes up, Neil Henry, which is coach of the Cowboys at the time. He's like, "Hey Chico, how you going?" Yeah, good mate. And it's like, "Oh, good game on the weekend. Scored 2 tries." I'm like, "Thanks, mate. Cheers." And he goes, from the start of the conversation to the end of it, he goes, "Mate, I think you might be 18th man this weekend. So just get yourself ready later." And the longer the conversation went, he goes, "Oh, I think I might put you on the bench." And then at the end, he goes, "Oh, you're going to play this week." So like from all them emotions, from the first I was like 18th man, I was like, "Oh yeah, sweet, hectic." And then like on the bench, I was like, "Oh, I might be on the bench." I didn't even think of it. And then he goes, "Yeah, you know what? You're going to play this week. You'll be number 22. And I was like, "What? No." 22, 23. I was like, "Oh my God." And I was like, "Are you serious?" And he's like, "Yeah, mate. Yeah, you're going to play. You're going to play." Yeah. So I was just like, "Oh, no way." Like,
that's a crack up. What a conversation. But I suppose you'd be glad, like, to know that you're actually going to play rather than be like 18th man and be like, "Am I going to play?"
Yeah.
You know that weird 18th man where you're just like, "Am I going to?" Like, I want to prep like I am.
Do I strap my ankles? Do I not strap that's the worst.
100%. You get all the strapping done, then you just pull it off. Like, fuck.
Yeah.
Beauty.
Yeah, beauty. Have a shower and then you have to go to fitness after.
Yeah. I used to do it like when I was at Melbourne. We used to do it straight after the game as well. So like you'd get all like the drunks that are still there after the game just spraying you, and you're just doing like 40s like shuttles up and back, and you're just like, beauty.
That's the worst. That is the worst. Luckily we had we used to do it like the day after when they're doing recovery. Sometimes it'd be in the pool and that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't too bad.
I kind of did mine because we got the same days off
as
if you were playing. Yeah. So, like, that was, like, the sweetener of it. That's like, all right, I'll get this, smash this out.
Yeah, that was
take all the fucking spray from all the people in the stands, and then, like, at least I get tomorrow off.
Yeah.
So I'll fucking sacrifice that.
That is a pleasure. But, yeah, ended up making my debut against the Storm. Because the game before that, the NRL Cowboys got flogged. And then the next game we ended up winning. So, like, we ended up beating the Storm, and I ended up getting a little bit of a rap from Cameron Smith. So I went what my first pass when I went out there was to Ray Thompson. It was one of them so like nervous passes. I passed it and he just went floated for a bit, and I could see his face. He's like, caught it. Oh, Jesse Bromwich, beauty.
I think that is
negative 3 meters. Ray's just like looking at him. I'm like, as soon as I passed, I knew. I'm like, sorry.
Yeah. I reckon that's one of the most nerve-wracking things is like, especially all the time as center. So you'd always have that like long ass pass from like the sideline, and you know that just like fuck, you're trying to whip it there.
Yeah.
And then that old like left to right, and it's just like sailing over. You're like, fuck, sorry, sorry, bro.
I know. I hate them ones when you second guess yourself. Because you're like, oh, should I dummy and go? Or like, and you end up passing anyway. And it's just like either bounce before them, bounce before they get it, or they just get it and they get pumped.
Like,
pumped. Head down. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, bro.
So, and made my debut, and then ended up playing like, I think it was 19 or 20 games that year, or might be a bit more.
Yeah, nice. You sort of just kicked on with it.
Yeah, so we won, and then it was sort of like each week I was building my confidence, and then that was actually the next game we played as a para. I don't know if you played that game. I think you might have. It was
yeah. That's I do remember that game.
Yeah,
that was my first debut try, bro. That game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was our debut year. Did you debut that? Oh, you 2010.
Yeah, debuted that year. Yeah.
So which one of which is another good thing about Cowboys as well that came from that game, like came from me being up there, was you don't realize like how many freaking really good players like players that were at the Cowboys. If you go through them like mental wise, like they've been through a lot, like experience wise. You got Jono, Mango, Matt Scott, Brent Tate. You also got like Glenn Hall, which was like been a while there, like Steve Southern, which has been around, like
Tongs was there at the time.
Tongs. Experience like Jimmy, but Jimmy ended up obviously kicking on, but like Jimmy debuted 2010, but like a lot of players like Ty Williams that like, you know, have been was around for a long time that like had a lot of knowledge. So that Parramatta game like was the first game, like because it was the first game against Storm. I felt sweet fitness wise, everything. It's Parramatta game. That's when I got found out.
Yeah,
that's when I was like, if I'm going to go back, when I was thinking I wasn't ready when I was playing that cup game, it definitely came out that game because I was out of my feet. Because your first game, your adrenaline's up. Nothing's going to make you tired, really.
Yeah, true.
You're all like full of energy, but like, you know, that's the thing with NRL. You got to be consistent, you know, every week. So, end up being out of my feet and end up like having to get taken off within 20 minutes. And I was stuffed because the game, like at that old stadium, man, like you guys used to grow another leg, man, Para. Like it was just, it was tough, bro. It was so tough. The
Para stadium was sick, man. Like the Para chant and everything was just so on top of you. It was like such a mad atmosphere.
And I was so young at the time too, and it was just like I
think we come off like 2 big defeats. As well. Yeah. Like we got beat by Penrith and we got pumped by fucking Rabbitohs. So we're like well up for it. And it's so like so anyone that's like any like NRL player or sort of player that plays where it's like a stadium like Para or like, you know, so confrontational. The fans or the team put you in a position where you start second guessing. I was second guessing, like, what did I eat? You know what I mean? Like, fuck, shouldn't have that chocolate last night. Like while I'm in the game and that's why I suppose you do like a grueling preseason and whatever, because it's such a team sport. But when you get in them moments, you individualize yourself so much because it's only your thoughts that's with you out there, and you ended up. You're like when you're in a preseason, you go through them tough periods. You end up like, you know, understanding you got to come together. You got to work as a team. That's the only thing that's going to get you out of it. Instead of like thinking about yourself and worrying about yourself in them type of situations. So like in the game, I'm worrying about, you know, I was inexperienced. I was worrying about, oh my God, what I ate or whatever. And then like it takes back from the fact that like all my focus and energy was on myself, not my teammates or what's around me, my game awareness. So I ended up working too hard than I have to. So it put me in like a more of a shocking state, and I had to, like, I was like, call the train, like, get me off on park. Like, you know what I mean? I was just put myself in like a individual situation where I was just worrying about myself, and I ended up being fatigued and wasting all that energy or whatever. And I think that's something that comes with experience too. Yeah. Like you figure out where you can save energy and where you can't save energy and stuff like that. Like I remember, my first few games, I was just like fucking just like, just like you want to get in everything. Just like literally every tackle, I'd be like line speed would be like, you know what I mean? You don't.
The ball's gone the other way, just sprinting up, touch.
Yeah, literally, I was like doing 10-meter Malcolms, just like up and back. What's this guy doing?
So and from sort of what I was saying before about like the Cowboys community. So from that, I ended up having a chat with Neil Henry, and he goes, like at the time, he goes, "Oh mate, you're gonna have to do extra work." And then so he told me like you have to come in on days off and, you know, run in the treadie. And like on top of that, Tatey took me out to lunch once, Brent Tate.
Yep.
And he tells me this story. He goes, mate, like, you know, you got a very good opportunity. He was sitting down having Subway. Subway's like gourmet up there. You know what I mean? Still the grouse. So I love it every now and then. And he's sitting there, we're having Subway, and he goes, mate, you know, you have a really good opportunity, mate. Chick, I believe in you. And like, that's what I mean with like the experience of the clientele that we had at the Cowboys community. Because for someone that's played so many games, so experienced, he comes up like to a rookie or whatever and says, look, mate, I believe in you.
Yeah, that's
it's sort of like a sort of same impact as a similar impact to what your dad say. I'm proud of you.
Yeah,
you know what you're doing is good. I'm proud of you. So like he's like, we sat down. He goes, mate, I believe in you. I'm like, you have a good opportunity here, mate. You got to get like your fitness and you got to pick up fitness. Whatever King says, you should do it. I'll do whatever he says. And he goes, I'll tell you the story once. So we're about to play a semi-final, right? He goes, tell me the story. I don't know what year it was, but he goes, about to play the semi-final, and it's a major semi, and then Shane Webke used to run 4Ks every day off, just before captain's run.
Yeah.
And then he goes, Wayne Bennett goes up to Shane Webke, he goes, mate, I don't want you to run. This is a big game. Like we need you save your legs. I don't want you to run Friday's captain's run. We got to play Saturday or whatever day it was. And that's sure enough. Yeah, day off comes. Boom, 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning. Webke's doing laps around the oval, and from out there, from that little sort of story, he said, "Look, mate, it's them little things that you do when no one's watching, or it's them little things that you do to give yourself confidence enough to mix it, like, or you do all the work to know like there's no questions you got to ask yourself or like when you fatigue out there on the field, like you have to like you don't go through your head and think about what you haven't done or whatever. It's just you've done the work. It's like a confidence builder.
Yeah.
So he said, look, mate, whatever you need to do, it's just you always, no matter how good you are, you always have to do extras, always. And just from that conversation, that year and like so on and so forth, like the value that I have from that sort of from Cowboys or whatever, it's still have within me. So like after that, I would just boom every day off. I used to jump on the treadie and used to go 14 Ks. I can't do it now. I'm like 14 Ks for 15 minutes straight.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
just
14 kilometers an hour for 15 minutes.
Yeah, 14 kilometers an hour for 15 minutes. And
I was going to say 14 Ks for you.
But this was day before captain's run. It was just like,
yeah.
Ended up being around like, it's warm up in 5 minutes. Ended up being around like just under 4Ks or 4Ks, to sprint.
Yeah. Yeah. But moving. But
like, it was just like it's a small thing, but once you do the little things, like once it weighed up to a lot of things, it's allowed me from like going to do them treadmill runs to like doing extra weights to doing extra stuff, and then which allowed me to become a player that I could surpass everything I could, be in NRL for like 8+ years or whatever. So yeah,
it's very much about that confidence side of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, because you sort of look at it and it's like, 4Ks, man, it's not going to hurt you. Like,
yeah,
you play, especially you look at Shane Webke's story and it's like, you played how many games? Yeah. Like your match fitness is up. Like you're in the semi-finals, bro. Like you probably played Origin that year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're probably sweet, but it's just that mental knowing that you've ticked all boxes and that like you are doing things that other players might not be doing as well.
Yeah.
And as you said, it's like with 14 kilometers an hour for 15 minutes, it's like, it gives you that confidence. It's like, hey, if something happens, I can just run for the next 15 minutes, like at a decent pace.
Exactly.
You can just take off and just be able to keep your body moving for the next 15 minutes.
And also, like with rugby league, like someone can go down like that and then I have to play the whole game. And like, for myself, I'd have confidence, like, I can last the whole game.
Yeah.
So it was sort of, King was sort of, Neil Henry was obviously looking towards, you want to be confident. We want to be confident in you, and you want to be confident that you can survive the whole game. And then the fitter you are, the easier the game becomes. And then obviously through game and game, you get experience and you start to understand where to take breaks or like how to manipulate the game to the way that suits you. And obviously, you start picking out situations in the game where you excel in, which was mine was like obviously like running. So it allowed me to, when teams are tired to identify that, and I wasn't too
take off.
I was too fucked to like identify. I can just take off, and then which allowed me to become a better player. And then so then I end up having 2 years with Cowboys, and looking back on it, I think should I have stayed there? Maybe we would have went on and I would have like been a part of that premiership winning team if I say that. But then, end of the day, like I always say, like, I'm always gonna, at the moment in time, whatever decision I make, it was my decision, and I'm never gonna say I see a lot of people, but like some people just always blame other people for decisions they made or whatever. But it's just like at that moment in time, you wanted that, so like, a lot of me wanted to stay, but like I think I needed to prove it to myself that I could survive in Sydney. And obviously, like my ego took over, but and also with a star-studded team like the Cowboys, you know, it was like I wanted to get recognition for my own career.
Yep.
So a lot of it is ego-driven. You know what I mean? So it's but
it's
at
a
the
challenge.
time, it's a challenge,
isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
at the time.
We get into it because we like the challenge.
Exactly,
A lot of the decisions are going to be made along the lines of challenge. So
exactly.
You can't be like, you can want to challenge yourself each week, but then when it comes to a decision like that, you're not challenging yourself. Like, it's just in your mentality.
Yeah. And then, so the 2012 year, I ended up playing 10 games, and Big Nate Miles, I took a run and he ended up laying on my ankle. I fallen over my ankle, syndesmosis. So I spent a lot of time on the sidelines, and that was the year that my contract was up. But I've played like pretty well until that point. Done my rehab, killed my rehab, whatever. Came back like early as, end up killing it straight away. And then I thought I should have got signed straight away. But like they were signing Cowboys were signing like other players and securing their sort of signature. And then I sort of took that in offense. And at the time, looking back, I probably shouldn't have been so self-obsessed with myself. And that's the mistakes we make or whatever. And like, I should have just been patient. And that's the thing, like a lot of older players now, or like players that have had a lot of experience, always say to young players, like, be patient, your time will come. You know what I mean? And at the time, I'm just like, no, I want it now. Like when you're young, I want this and I want it now and I can do this. And anyway, so I was like, no, F this. I rang up my manager. I was like, like, where can we go? And then next minute I get a call from Gus Gould. And I was still in my crutches, whatever. And legit, all I needed was like 10 minutes with him. And I was like, take this crutch off, I'm gonna run. Take the crutches off, man. Take the cast off, man.
Is that good, was he?
Oh, he just has a presence on him. He is, man, he's just a leader. He's just, I don't care, like, whatever, like, you say about him. If you don't know him personally, you can't really talk on his behalf. But if you know him personally and you know what he stands for and like see the bigger picture of his vision, he's always like 5 years ahead. He's always, and he's like, when I was talking to him, I was like, this is the person. There's people that come in your life where they just know who they are and know where they're going in life, and they just attract people. You know what I mean? They attract followers because they have a presence about them. And after that conversation, I was like, that's a club I want to be at.
Yep.
I fucking want to be there.
That's gun.
Yeah, just from
imagine having that presence about you. Just being that guy that's just like, I'm ready to follow this guy.
Yeah, but like the pressure of saying like a big speech every day was killed too. But he's just got it. Like he just flows. He knows the game inside out. He knows who he is.
He know how rugby players work as well.
Exactly right.
You know what I mean? You've been around that for so long. You know the psychology. He'd know the ego. He'd know like,
exactly. He'd know exactly.
That,
so
young fella like yourself.
Oh man, and ended up signing with Penrith and leaving the Cowboys. And then 2013 was my first year at Penrith. So I think Gus put together like sort of like a Moneyball type of team.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? With the players we had.
Yeah.
And we ended up being like a little bit like, in 2 years, we ended up making like big major semis and beating the Roosters and going to play the Bulldogs in a prelim and then end up losing, obviously, Bulldogs in South grand final. But like, honestly,
Oakland Athletics. God damn it.
but like, looking back on the team, like on paper before like season started, that 2014 season, you would never ever think Gus again done his magic, and a lot of that's like probably one of my best years. Like footy wise, is probably my best year because I ended up like.
Yeah, I remember like when you went to Penrith, you like exploded a little bit. Like fuck, this guy's gone.
Yeah, so like and on the back of it, I think a lot of it would have to do obviously like the part where I go back to my abandonment anxiety or whatever of me against the world. So like my ego took over. So I'm going to show these people like Cowboys didn't pick me. So I'm going to show these people I want to go to Penrith. So like it's sort of like a cycle you can see. So went there, tunnel vision, and also like the coach, bro. Like Ivan Cleary is an amazing coach, bro. Amazing, totally different from anyone that I've been able that coached me. He's like a type of coach that's he's sort of like he'll ask you a question and then you answer with like, say for instance, we would do video and I'd say it's the 5th and last and I'd end up running 5th and last and it would go up, oh, it's like the 60th minute, it's 5th and last, you're in this here. Why'd you do that? Do you think that was the right decision at the time? And he'd make it emphasis on you, but his way of coaching was you'd learn by yourself.
Everything was a lesson.
Everything was a lesson. And then like after sort of our conversation, I'll say, I probably shouldn't have done that. You know, like, you go, well, next time at least you know. Or like, then you'll identify that mentally in your head or you write that down. So it'll be like, boom. That's the next time then. You know what I mean? And then the more times you get in the situation or the more times you play, you're more aware of the clock and what tackle it is. But it was a gradual process for me.
He had like the long-term vision in mind.
Exactly.
And like trying to groom his players rather than be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like we get some coaches where they just get a little bit irrational, a little bit emotional. Yeah. And then like that creates fear rather than creating the learning experience and then the knowledge of like not doing that next time.
100%. Like instead of him telling you, you'd end up like figuring it out for yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So then
that's mad.
So he was like amazing like that, man. Like, and a lot of the times he was just he'd call me in his office and we'll talk through stuff and he'd always ask how I am or whatever. But like, it allowed me to become like sort of like the player of coming in when I was like at the Cowboys, like being erratic for 30 minutes. 40 minutes, whatever, running.
Just get on and cause chaos.
And then slowly like try to transform yourself to a, 60 to 80 minute player. And then 2014 was a good year for me. And then and within that, it was a great year also, but within that that year I ended up losing my dad. Ended up losing my dad middle of the year, and at the time I didn't really I didn't embrace that sort of the feeling of grief. I didn't embrace it at all, because in footy they teach us, like, you teach to go, boom, deal with it in 3 days. Next week, you're next week. You don't fully, like, because it's always the next week. You try to deal as quick as you can, brush it away, next job. Or like even in training, you like make a mistake, next job. Which is like you get in a cycle of just like, becoming like that, and it goes towards your everyday life, whether it is like with your partner or whatever, you say something nice to her or whatever, like you have an argument, you're over it straight away, and then you move on to the next thing. Yep. You don't really deal with it.
There's no time to dwell. There's no time to sulk. It's just you just got to crack on.
And sometimes, like, if you don't identify that, it's a very, very, very bad trait to have. And I'm still trying to deal with it myself personally. But that period when my dad died, I didn't allow myself to deal with it properly. So my dad passed away, and he was like I was gone for like 2 weeks, and cause like out of my whole family, I was like, I'm the second youngest, but I had to be the oldest. I had to be the man. And so in our culture, like say for instance, like my dad's body was there, and a family would come in. They would give their offering, which is money, food. And they lay down on the table or the mat where we're sitting, and then I'd stand up, I'd like welcome them in, and it depends what time of day it is. It's either here's food, tea or coffee, here's food if it's dinner or whatever. They'll eat, and then they'll give their offer, and then they'll tell their story. They'll tell the story of I was just seeing Dad 3 weeks ago, and he was in good health and everything like that. So my dad died of like a brain aneurysm. All right.
Yeah.
So, and one of the things that impacted me, like that I didn't allow myself to grieve on, was the fact that the period when him and Mum was splitting up, I never forgave him for not being there.
Yep.
So a lot of the times when I was up and coming, making footy or whatever, and I was like at the Cowboys and like Penrith, he was always like supportive and wanted to come, and I'd always say, same mentality, me against the world. No. I'd say no, and I'd be so frustrated at him, but it was because I didn't have the right tools or the right mindset to take myself out of that situation and understand what I'm doing is because of my anxieties that I felt when I was young, of the attachment anxiety of him not being there, and I'm not me allowing myself to forgive him is actually gonna fuck me more back in the future of my life. So it did anyway. So all throughout the period, the period of the funeral, a lot of people kept coming up and saying, I seen Dad 2 weeks ago. He was sweet, and they say when people are about to die, they know when their time's come. So my dad was a lot of people that were coming in, a lot of families, like a lot of my dad's ex-mates and that, oh man, I haven't seen him for 5 years, and I seen him 3 months ago, and I haven't seen him for 2 years now. He called me up. He just knew on his time. It felt like it from what everyone was saying, and he'd make a couple of comments to my uncle about he'd be sitting there with my uncle, and then he'd be like, man, I think it's time for us to go back home. Go back to the village, because he'd live in the Port Moresby city, and it was I think it's time, let's build our house. And it was sort of he knew he was going to die, and he's let's go back and cut the grass and build the house and let's relax. I think it's time. Anyway, so he passed away from brain aneurysm, and I didn't allow myself to feel and allow myself to forgive him. So a lot of built up stuff I had, it was still built up, and then towards that 2015 season, it slowly crept up on me, and I didn't know how to deal with that. So what happens? I end up acting out, acting out in certain ways, and just doing stuff. And I didn't know at that time, but looking back on it, I think I was depressed. You know what I mean? I think it was a form of depression, a little bit form of depression, because I was just not self-aware. I was self-aware, but not really what I was doing. I was just just not doing my extras and stuff that I built up a reputation of doing, and just not doing. And I would always be after little things, always after weights, I'd always do extra abs. I'd always do extra training. Every day off, I'd never skip a day off. I'd always train. Whether it was gym, swimming, I'd always do recovery. Just little things. I'd always sometimes go for a run. Just some little things, and and it was just because I felt that I felt so much guilt within myself, and didn't love myself enough wasn't comfortable with me forgiving my old man.
Mm-hmm. Just holding under that pain, weighing you down.
Yeah, and then it ended up me acting out and pretty much self-sabotaging.
Yeah.
A little bit of my career, and then because I wasn't doing my extras right, I ended up getting niggly injuries, and man, I was just doing a lot of things that didn't align with what my goals was, or what I should be if I wanted to reach that level again the previous year.
Yep.
And so 2015 ended up having a shocking, like not the best year, and as a club going from a prelim final to like fighting for last position, fighting to not be wooden spoon the last round, and end up being like 4th or 5th to the bottom. So like just and a lot of it was, and then also what happens with teams that aren't really used to success, or players that aren't really used to success. A lot of outside influences start coming in. For instance, like, man, my ego got the better of me that 2015 year because I thought I was like could do everything myself within the team, and I didn't understand. I thought I needed to be like this flashy player or whatever. You know what I mean? Like needed to make 10 runs a game, just like looking at stats instead of like, no, dude, take yourself back to process.
Yep.
Doing the little things. My tackle technique is what's going to end up making me be a better runner, because once my tackling is right, my confidence will build from that to running, because running comes natural to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So it's all like in a cycle of how, a game's played through. Once you complete this set, you get in the rhythm, and then, and if you don't go back to the step one or your processes, you end up, chasing your tail or trying to, make up things on the go.
Yeah.
So in the big scheme of that whole year, it's just all my processes went out the window, and I was acting out on my own personal shit, and thinking I was better than what I was actually are, and not doing the work, like doing the work to allow myself to benefit throughout that season. So it was a good learning period, and it was also like a wake up call the following year, or like the following preseason, because Ivan ended up getting the sack, and I think a lot of it we should take the blame for, us players, because at the end of the day we're the ones that play the game, and he was always trying to get us better, but like I think we took for granted his type of coaching. You know what I mean? Like we took for granted how relaxed he was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because his type of coach is relaxed, and he like allows you to sort of be an adult and you make a decision. So we took that. I think personally I took advantage of that a little bit too much, and now I was paying the price when I wasn't performing.
Yep.
And then obviously got sacked, and I felt very upset about that, because like I said, we're the ones that have to go execute, and I think a lot of us didn't really execute at all that year. And
sometimes the coach is just like the easy way out type of thing.
So then that year, like that off season, like really, obviously a lot of movement happened. Went out, Hook came in, and then came back to that 2016 season and preseason, and wow, it was just like whoa, it was like back to just running. Yeah.
Who was the coach then?
Anthony Griffin.
Yeah.
So Anthony Griffin.
Bit of a shock to the system.
It was a very shock to the system. It was just like doing 2.5s time. The ones. Yeah. So
we sort of went through Melbourne? the same thing.
Mooks.
Yeah, when Mooks come up, and even like in between that, we had Ricky Stewart come in, and it's hard, man. When you're not performing, the coach that comes in automatically thinks that, you know what I mean, you aren't doing the right thing, or you just need to be fitter, and like you just need to sort of bash them. And sometimes it's not the thing. Sometimes it can be confidence, it can be gelling of the team, and
exactly right.
And sometimes it's the last thing you want to see is some coach come in and just start absolutely flogging you like you're some dog that's done the wrong thing. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And it was like it was I don't think like flogging us, like we probably like, because we had a lot of young guys too, so we needed that for a bit, but it was just like I didn't really fit into that. I don't think I fit into the system that Hook was implementing. So then anyway, like had like a decent off season, and then I started round one, and he's a good coach, really good coach. It was just I ended up breaking my arm, and the round 1 against Canberra in 2016, breaking my arm, and then sort of just 10 weeks out, sort of put me in the back foot, and then Wally ended up being hooker, and I ended up getting not traded, but ended up going over to Leeds. To the Rhinos, to the beautiful Rhinos, and
absolutely killed it when you were over there too.
And I honestly, I cried. When I was about to leave Penrith, I cried. I cried, and at that time I was like, it was actually a real significant moment in my career, because all throughout that, from when I first debuted to 16, confident. 16, broke my arm, and then you're gonna be traded, and then you're like, oh my God, am I that good? Am I good? Am I good enough? You know what I mean? I'm just is the NRL season over? Is my NRL career over? Am I good enough to play NRL anymore? It's when you it's a tough thing. When you start having that Super League conversation, it's ooh, and I was really I'm way better than this, and then.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Not bad for Super, but it's our aspiration to want to play NRL.
Yeah, and I can still mix it. And then went from me not training with the team on certain days, and I'm just
wow,
bro. I'm and then oh yeah, Chico's got a bad attitude to an extent, but I'm saying also fucking earth I should be angry. You know what I mean? I think I'm this good of a player. And he's got a bad attitude, he's upset that he's not playing. Well, what do you want me to be like? But
and then they'll remove you from some training sessions. You don't have to come in today and shit like that. Yeah, so that's a bit of disrespect. No matter where you're at, you should always feel welcome into the team.
Yeah, and
especially top 25.
Yeah, exactly. And then I was just okay, but. I don't know, maybe looking from the outside in, this is they make you second guess yourself. And this is certain clubs do it, every club does it actually, but they make you second guess yourself to the point where really they have your future in your hands. Some they have your future in your hands, and you can either go, if you're not weak-minded, but if you don't have the mental capacity to pull yourself up from a slump, you'll struggle. And if you allow certain people to tell you different, and you don't have a good self-belief, it's hard to come back, especially when you're down in confidence, hard to come back to the level where you think you are.
Yeah, and especially what you were talking about before of it's you against the world type of thing. It's when the person that's choosing the team turns their back on you type of thing, it's hard to say, fuck you. Exactly. You know what I mean? Because at some point, it's you kind of do need them. You can't you know what I mean? You can't turn your back on them type of things. You obviously need them to pick you. And that's probably a little bit where the attitude maybe come from or just not wanting to be a part of the team.
Yeah. So anyway, ended up getting signed over in Leeds, and then they have two comps over, and the 3 comps. It's the Super 8s and what's the
Challenge Cup,
and that. So
and then to have the regular season.
Yeah, so I ended up going over halfway through the year and playing Super 8. So Super 8 is top 4.
It's
top 4 of the Super League play the top 4 of the league below Super League.
Yeah.
So Leeds would the club, one of the best clubs over there, one of the top dogs.
Yeah.
So ended up going to Leeds. Was there for 12, 11 weeks. Ended up winning 10 games. You know what I mean? So end up getting confidence back. Yeah. The best thing for me, getting confidence back, and then
they're still talking about when I went over there. How good was Chico's run when he was over?
Oh man,
you were idolised at Leeds. You played there for 12 weeks.
But I love the club. Nothing bad to say. I got nothing against Leeds. It was the best club. They look after you so well. Legit. I thought I was one of the EPL players. Just because
they do.
They give you in Europe. Cars there are nothing to them because it's the obviously European cars. They're made around
so
Europe,
cheap,
so like so cheap for cars.
Yeah.
So I'm driving down to Beamer thinking I am killing it.com. I'm driving to Beamer thinking I'm in like the middle of Double Bay or something. You know what I mean? Windows down, like it's probably raining and I've got just a sunroof off. You know what I mean?
Just taking in the weather, guys. Just taking in the weather. Acclimatizing.
Yeah. So like they were great in that sort of sense, man. Leeds were good, but then like ended up finishing that sort of Super 8s, which lasts for about 12 weeks or whatnot, and then the end of the season. And so what happened was we sat down, me and the CEO sat down, and then we agreed. Handshake agreed to something, to an agreement of contract. And at the time, I probably shouldn't have signed, because within myself, I knew I wanted to go back and play NRL because I had like a lot of aspirations to try to play for Queensland. And I thought like, if I stay, I'm going to get comfortable, and it was like, I could see myself staying a long time. And also I just wanted to come back and like, complete my goals.
Yeah. Improve to yourself.
Improve to myself. And then I was like to the CEO, I was like, this and this, I want this, and like we handshook, and I said, look, this means more to me than a contract, whatever. And then it was this disagreement that happened apparently, and then I ended up going back, and I was going to come back. I ended up going back to Australia, and I was going to come back to Leeds, and then something happened with the contract. It wasn't the terms that I agreed on. Long story short, didn't come back to Leeds. They ended up putting a transfer fee on my head. Luckily enough, I got picked up from Cronulla, and they paid the transfer fee. And I joined Cronulla. I think it was either March or February. But like before that period, I was just training on my own.
Yeah,
isolation training, just trying to just like,
replicate the preseason.
It was
by yourself. Fuck, that would be torture. Absolute torture.
It was tough because you can never replicate something individually. You got like something like a team sport like rugby league, because I'm used to tackling blokes and wrestling and like passing to someone and like doing game simulator drills and stuff. So when I came into Cronulla. And when I came to Cronulla, I was a little bit obviously underdone, and then like I played my first game, and like I could only play like a certain amount of minutes because I didn't do the work. And which was one of the best things about Cronulla, which I think to me is my most enjoyable time playing NRL, is just the staff, the head of performance, Andrew Gray, King, just when. Man, like he just cared. Cared. The guy was there before anyone else.
Were you there when Sefa was there?
Yeah.
He speaks about it a lot too. Like they just really, really looked after him and just wanted you to perform on the weekend.
Exactly right. And they knew what footy players are. You know what I mean? Like they understood what footy players are, and other trainers don't really understand like all the other outsides of it. Like they knew how to get the best out of 80 minutes from that player. Like, and they were so individualized. Like Andrew was on to the money with how like he'd tailor your program to suit you, and like it'd replicate what you do in the game in training and certain, movements within the gym or within training, or what you needed to do for a top up. And it was the best, like, and mentally as well. Like it wasn't like one size fits all. Let's say, for instance, when you're doing conditioning or like, like players like myself in the middle, they have to have a different conditioning to a fullback. You know what I mean? Because I'm gonna have to do a lot of wrestling, tackling, getting up to the ground, off the ground, like shuttles. I never sprint more than 40 minutes or under. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Fullbacks back and forth. Not a lot of wrestling.
You got to have the K's in the legs.
And you got to be able to be effective when you say for instance when you're bursting through the line, and you got to beat the fullback.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah,
me it's totally different. So Andrew Gray and the Matty J, the coaching staff, Capri and all the people, because Andrew Gray made a GPS program that the EPL people use.
Oh yeah,
yeah. He's the creator, one of the creators of it.
Wow.
So he could from the GPS, you could tell what leg you were favoring the most, and he'll come up and pat you and say, no, go on the bike.
Yeah.
In the middle of the session, and the thing what good with Flano is that he doesn't get a lot of praise was a lot of certain coaches are so ego driven that they don't let other trainers tell them how to train their players. Flano was just yep, Andrew, you take it. You know better than me. He allowed himself to relax and let the people with the qualifications do it.
Yep.
And just from that organization, we didn't have much. Canelo didn't have much money to spend on equipment and stuff. But fuck, the play, we felt come game day, we were ready. You know what I mean? I felt
But you know who did that mad as well? Melbourne, bro.
Yeah.
And bro, Billy, Billy's that hard, man. He would barely do any of the sessions, bro. He'd just walk around and just watch.
Yeah.
He'd just let everyone else take it. If it was fitness, none of the coaches would be around.
Yeah.
They do fitness. You know what I mean? It was just mad like that. They just completely understood, and it just sounded exact same as what you're talking about. All they cared about is you on the weekend. Exactly. And I think it's one of those things, there's sort of a two-prong to it. It's I feel when the coaches come in, they bring their own strength and conditioning coach buddy with them, and it's generally someone who will listen to what the coaches say. You know what I mean? They're not going to try and override them, so to speak. And then B, it's the strength and conditioning coach won't sort of understand confidence in your body. You know what I mean? They think that you need this amount of Ks in your legs to be ready. But at the end of the day, if you got an injury that's in the back of your head, it doesn't matter how much fitness you do. If you feel like shit, you're going to play like shit. Because, as you said before, you know what I mean? You got that constant thing in your head, fuck, this is feeling shit. I can't feel like I can take off. And it's it's hard for some people to understand, I think, is the mental toll it takes for you to have sort of a niggling injury or something.
Oh, definitely. And I think also on that, it's someone in any organization, any business or whatever. It's my boss coming to micromanage. If I'm a manager and my boss comes and micromanages me, really, when the coach does that to a trainer, it's he's actually putting his dominance over you to say to make you feel belittled. So in other words,
plus it shows no trust.
It shows no trust in what you're doing.
Yeah.
So you might have gone to uni, whatever, and it just shows what the if you're gonna hire me to do a job, just let me do the job. But with micromanagers and coaches that always need to be there, and also they always need the coach. What things that coaches do it's so annoying. When they especially when they're in fitness, all right. Say coaches stand on fitness and they're telling you to push. Go, shut the fuck up, dude. You just dude. I already hear you enough of you telling me what not to do. It's a psychological thing to when you're giving me a spray and it's that same voice that's going to repeat itself over my head and I'm just shut off. It's a lot of coaches do that, man. They want to, okay, boys, push it one more set and no, bro, you don't need to be here. You know what I mean? They need to talk all the time. You actually think you're motivating, but you're not. You're actually doing worse to the player because straight away when they're under that level of fatigue and they've gone to that type of environment where it's individualized and they're thinking just that him and themselves, their own thoughts, whatever the effort they got to do, they already have they're already battling with themselves. And if they hear you, just another rep or go one more, you come on your week so and so or whatever, straight away it's gonna boom boom. It's gonna be a bookmark in the memory bank to when you're, at half time or you're trying to give them a spray, they're not gonna listen to you at all. I believe, anyway, from my experience. So
It's almost a feel like they're not in the trenches with you.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't know what that feels like. You know what I mean? When you're straight away, I'm me again, you don't know what it feels like to be doing this. So don't come here and start yahooing and saying one more. Just let the trainers do what they need to do.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And then also so which was good about which was good about Cronulla was Andrew, like you've seen how hard he worked, but also how much like he cared about the individual. So he'd come up and like, you know, go, oh, tap you on the shoulder and like, hey mate, like, you know, yesterday, like, you know, you were a little bit down and so-and-so, is everything all right? What's wrong with your hammy or what's wrong? He goes, mate, I need you to push a bit more in this training session.
Yeah.
Bang, you'd go out of your way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just like it's like treating someone like an adult as well, and you know, like being able to trust that they're gonna like, you know, get the Ks that you ask them, or gonna accomplish what you ask them. And if they don't, then like if they don't, they obviously got extras. But like, just give them that opportunity to prove you wrong, or you know what I mean. So
it's amazing that just that little tap on the shoulder and that one-to-one interaction.
Oh,
and like, it's crazy. You wouldn't think like you just think like, oh hey, you just got to do some more. But it's like that actual taking the time of like, hey, you were right. First things first, and then it's like, okay, we've got a goal. We need you to push that just that little bit harder, and it's like, you feel like you're together with it. You feel like you're on the same page. Well, exactly. You feel like you're both working towards it.
Yeah.
And that's when you feel like they're in the trenches with you.
100%.
You know what I mean?
100%. Because they obviously, first of all, they know what you're going through. Like they ask you how you are.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know what I mean? So, and if even whatever it was, like, you know, and like my back turns, like, oh, bros, let's just do. And if your back pulls up, let's just do as much as we can. Like try get like, and then they'll explain to you, we've got this coming up. So let's try get as much. And then we can sort of have a break.
Yeah. Yeah.
So straight away, you're like, you know, it's talking to you one-on-one. And then it's like, you're buying into that because you're already involved in a team, in a team environment. So you're working together with them.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh man, I don't want to let my mate down.
Yeah, you don't want to let him down.
He puts all this trust in me.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to try my best.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like. So anyway, so it was great at Cronulla, and was there for 2 years. And we ended up like making a big major semi as well. And you know, that I was there for 2017, 18, and then a little bit of 19. But the 2018 year, which I think was the happiest, I think. The happiest, the most centered I've ever been. I've been playing footy, I believe. Yeah. 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 And a lot of it was obviously because of Andrew.
Yeah.
And because how much he cared. And also a lot of it was because I was identifying my issues that I had within myself. You know, when I was younger, that, you know, developed this person that has like this person who I am, but also has, you know, a lot of insecurities and other stuff that I needed to work on. And then just the progress of that, it was like sort of like a, you know, me being a young adult to becoming a more mature-ish adult.
Yeah.
So I ended up 2019 getting signed to the Broncos. Now the Broncos are the club I love the most. You know, like when I was younger, you know what I mean? Them and Cowboys, wow. And then obviously Darren Lockyer, my favorite player. And I was like, luckily enough, when I was younger, I got to play in his 300th game against him.
Oh yeah, against him.
Yeah, man. Like I was so starstruck because I went to ask for his autograph, but like because it was 300th, boom. Or like as soon as the game finished, I went to go ask for his autograph, and then like all the cameras came. 300 games.
All the fucking interviews pop out.
All the interviews popped out, so I didn't end up getting it. But went up there halfway through 2019 year. Man, played my first game against Roosters and ended up scoring the winning try. So that was unreal, and sort of like that year.
I remember that game actually.
Yeah,
that was sick.
So that year was like because Brisbane were a fairly young team, so it was a very enjoyable year for me, but also a very because the first time because me, Corey, and Isaac had a business called YKTR, and sort of first time I was apart from like Sydney for a while, and just had to spend a lot of time by myself because everyone in at the Bronx either had a young family or, you know, they were younger and you sort of was in between, single. So I just wasn't too sure where I fit in, but it was good, man. It was a great year, and ended up at the SADA band. Yeah. And ended up the SADA ban happening. So I'll tell you what happened. Was long story short, ended up moving in with a guy that the club sort of recommended, or they put me in touch with.
Yep.
So it was like a legit, like anyone could. It was an honest mistake. He ended up moving into his place because I was there for 6 months and I didn't want to sign like a year lease, saying I thought I was going to come back to Sydney, or I didn't know unsure what I was doing. And plus, like I said before, the boys had young families and the other boys were already shacked up or living with their parents or whatever. You know what I mean? So, ended up moving with this bloke the club got in touch with. Champion bloke. Like, every day kick around. We had sort of had common interests. He had similarities. He was in Townsville. Yeah. He was in the army in Townsville. So we sort of share that bond of us living in Townsville. So what happened was he had like a blender that because I was using everything, all this cookware, stuff like that. So anyway, he had a blender that he used, and I ended up using the same blender. What happened was residue left over from his protein, and his protein had stuff, some substance that I wasn't allowed to take. And after years of him using it, there was leftover residue. Ended up getting into my system, and then long story short, ended up getting banned. And then from the time I got banned, it was like I was over in me, Norms, and Moyes were over in Amman. At Jordan,
I remember that.
We're going over to Istanbul. We're going to Turkey, about to board a flight. Get this call. I still had my data roaming on, and because Aussie number, I called it. I picked it up. Sorry, and hey, so and so from Asada. I was like, oh yeah, mate. Told me you've been, we found a banned substance. Oh my god, almost like pretty much fainted. I was lining up to check in. Oh, so I was like, the boys were like, what's going on? What's going on? They're like, what's going on? I was like, man, almost fainted. I was just like, legit, fell to my knees. Boom. Man, like this, bro. First thing that comes, it's so F that the first thing that comes to your mind is money. Yeah. That's like, how am I going to pay for this? Like, that's how psychologically friggin' triggered we are in this society to think like that. It's so silly. The first thing should be to think, anyone should think is like, oh my God, my family, instead of money. Like, it's so dumb. Yeah. But that's the way it is. And then I thought, how am I going to pay for my house? So like, that's the first thing. How am I going to how can I afford this?
Yeah, and sort of everything gets ripped from it. It's like, it's kind of weird, even like being in like normal society now, every paycheck's not guaranteed. And like, because coming from being contracted, for the next 3 years, this is how much I'm making for the next 3 years. And then like going out sort of, for me, being a little bit entrepreneurial and plus like working, doing one-on-ones and stuff like that, it's like, fuck, no paycheck is guaranteed each week, which is wild. Which would have been tough thing to sort of comprehend.
Massive, tough. And then when I was sitting there like talking to the boys after we've sort of heard the news, I was trying to figure out like how the hell this happened to me. And then I was like, man, should I just book a flight home?
Imagine the brainstorming on the flight.
Brainstorming from Norms.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but like best person ever that I should have been with Norms, because like hit that nail on the head, because I was like stressing, should I go back home now, like sort this out? And Norm's like, mate, just enjoy your holiday. He goes, there's nothing you can do now. Stay on your holiday. Don't go back home. Stay on your holiday. Enjoy it. And then when it's time to go home,
it's going to be there. When,
you got this for the next however long. End up enjoying my holiday. It was nice, but then obviously at the back of my head, had that issue. Came back. Got a good lawyer. Ended up being found innocent. After 2 years, after like a year and a bit out of the game. So, which ended up being 18 months. So it was like battling. And then at the same time, like the swimmer, what's her name? What's the swimmer's name? She got done the same thing.
It's not coming.
Anyway, she got done the same thing, and then so she was messaging me as well. I was over there like, we're trying to figure it out, how it could happen through to be the same thing, because she lived around Brisbane as well. Anyway, so ended up tracing her back to, my roommate ended up saying, look, it could have been later. And then luckily, he's written down a statement or whatever, So all sorted out and ended up being found innocent midway through last year. And up till then, man, I was just like, went through a period. Man, I went through a period. I got married. Ended up getting married, then divorced. Ended up just working behind a bar for a little bit, Den and Kemp's bar, bloke in a bar. And for a little bit, ended up concreting, and then came down here to Sydney, moved down to Sydney. Worked with Hoz for a bit, doing traffic control. Tried my hand in that. Work dried up, ended up back to concreting with one of my mates, Sterling, and ended up actually having a good crew, and ended up doing that for the next year or so. So all towards that period, that little cycle there, it was just a really, really also tough and rewarding at the same time.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was so blessed to have close friends, obviously Corey and Ice. Having them as my best mates is very great support network, and obviously us starting that a business in clothing, YKTR, allowed me to not have so much anxiety about my identity after footy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've always and a part of that's because of my old man always saying to me, always drilling to me, have something planned for after footy, or, make sure you have something planned for after footy because it ain't going to last forever. And myself as well being proactive in that, and when we started the clothing label, it was just we're selling it out of our house, we were selling it out of our cars, really.
Yeah. Just selling to some of the boys at footy, and just it was a giggle, eh?
Massive giggle, man. Well, the shirt cost us $19 to make. It was selling for $20. And you know what I mean? It was, and what the boys are like at footy too. They'll be like, "Oh, I'll give you money payday." No, money's now, mate. And
come on, just give it for free, bro.
Yeah. So, and saying that, man, doing them sort of trying to break the cycle of the modern day athletes back then, or footy players back then, that sort of locker room chat of every time you post something, or every time you'd get the old heads, people oh, that's so lame, and why are you doing that, man? Why'd you post that? That's so lame. That's so,
pull your head in.
Pull your head in, oh, what, you play for Penrith now, or you play for thing. And now, obviously, the culture's shifted a lot.
Yeah.
A lot now with social media and everything, and
I think Denim Camp, and I think a little bit of Ice as well, has really opened the way for this future next generation to be able to go down and express themselves. And
exactly.
Because I 100% remember, man, when I was coming through, if you even if you did a selfie, bro.
Yeah.
If you did a selfie, it was bro, what are you taking a selfie for?
You and your photo of you and your missus?
Yeah, you're a lover, bro. You're loving. And this would be a whole changing room, and everyone would be looking around, and everyone would be giving you shit. And at the same time, it's not an excuse for us back in the day. If we jumped on Instagram back in the day and went hard, bro, imagine how much you would have killed it back in the day. It's
100%.
But it was very much something to overcome, and it's a credit to you boys to say out and just say fuck it and just go hard after it.
It was just after a while, it was just the blokes that make fun of you is the blokes that actually want the free stuff. And then you sort of have to notice it's their own sort of insecurities themselves and doesn't allow them to branch out and become who they actually want to be, that they're putting the hate on you, which is fair enough, because not fair enough, but it's our sort of society trained us to be like that a lot of times. You know what I mean? If your mate owns a business, or if your mate has a business, you should do everything in your power to fucking help, not ask for free shit, or not ask for fucking for us like for you to be like discounted or whatever. It's like, but then you go buy someone else's brand. That's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just that's how we are sometimes as Aussies, and we don't like, and it's
one of those things of like stacking up price as well. It's like if someone comes out with like, even like say like you boys, like I don't know, like $60 shirt or whatever, and it's like, oh fuck, why are you charging like $60? Like, who do you think you are? And then, but they'll like happily go buy like some brand name that's like a wallet for like fucking $500 or whatever it is. Right. It's like, bro, you serious? You know what I mean? At least support the boys.
Exactly. And then like obviously we have to go through a lot of them, and like I think, you know, obviously the head man behind it, the brains, like, you know, I got a lot of gratitude towards Isaac, man. He's created such an amazing brand out of, you know, just a dream of us playing pokies, really. Playing pokies and friggin', you know, having a good time on the weekends to make it be actually like my job now. And, you know, moving forward, it's going to be like obviously a place where I can, you know, branch out and build whatever goals I have, or allows us to, you know, allows us to have a vision of anything we want to do, and we can do it financially. You know what I mean? Like when you don't have money, it's hard for you to envision yourself to do something. Yeah, if you've got financial backing, the world's your oyster. Yeah. You know what I mean? You can freaking
and he's got a decent amount of tension as well.
Yeah.
So you got like eyeballs plus with a little bit of money. It's like, bruh, the world's your oyster.
Exactly, and then it just makes everything a lot more easier. But like, you know, so all throughout that period when like, I know, where do you want to start? From me getting married, or like
whatever you feel like?
No, man, like, okay, I'll give it to you straight up, bro. Like at the time, man, like, you know, probably wasn't like the time, and we got married, and it's like I said, I mean, I'm always gonna do what I think is right. Do not think it's right. I'm always going to do my decision. I always make my decision, and it's always going to be on me. At the moment in time, I thought like, you know, it was the right decision. Obviously, not looking back, but obviously now it failed. But like, I man up and say here, it was all my fault. Like, it failed because of me. Yep. You know what I mean? She's the most amazing person, one of the smartest person I know. Got nothing but praise for her. But like, at the end of the day, it's about my what happened in our relationship was because of me, my insecurities, and my lack of being self-aware of who I am, and trying to figure out what I am within that period of that transition period from footy player to not having any money to like
effectively losing your identity as as a footy player.
Yeah, slowly trying to get in time. I always said to myself when I was playing, I was like, I'm not like, and our brand allowed us to be like that, but I'm not a footy player completely.
Yeah, just a footy player.
Just a footy player. And that's what our brand, like YKT, allows us to be, or because allows us to express ourselves outside of the footy realm and say like, look, I've got other skills as well. And we're allowed to do that. We're allowed to inspire other people through clothing to allow themselves to be not only a chippy, they can be whoever they want to be, in that sense of side hustle or going after it. Just because someone tells you different doesn't mean it is. So that period where I'd always like, okay, I'm not always a footy player. Like, you know, I'm something else. And then after like that suspension happened, I was going through that period like, fuck, my footy's gone, but it's still a major part of me. And then what I fell into is I was just like eating bad, drinking a lot, having a lot of beers, and then just like not taking care of my body, not working out, because what I felt and what I should have realized, but like when I started working out, it gave me like so much, gave me sort of like I wouldn't say depression, but when I worked out, it made me feel the same feeling that I was getting in footy, and made me miss footy. Yep. And made me miss being a part of, like, you know, and the fact that I couldn't be a part of that, and I wasn't mature enough to take myself out of that sort of same type of feeling of like, you know,
do you think it was because like
competition?
You always used to train to work towards something, and it was always like to obviously work towards footy. So then like now when you're training, it was like
no, not towards so much that. It was just the feeling of being competitive.
Yeah, yeah.
And I didn't want to become. I didn't want that feeling because it reminded me of what I was built for, or what I'd known since I was 8. You know what I mean? So I'd stopped working out for like a good 10 months, bro. And I was like, put on some weight, just like, and then also trying to figure out myself. I like had all these mental issues or things that I wasn't addressing. And then obviously that like played into the relationship, and then, you know, me being like a bad husband, and, you know, everything owns me, and me failing in that sort of type environment. So, yeah, I failed, and I'm like, you know, I'm not proud of it or anything, and like, it just sucks, man, because I hurt someone so dears to me, and then like, she's such a legend, a cool person, and, you know, at least, you know, I'm here now to like, I'm transparent, and like, you know, fucking, you know, I'm like, I had a divorce, yeah,
for it.
And that's one thing I pride myself. I do take accountability of my actions, and, you know, allowed me in a way to turn circle now. Like, you know, I'm in another relationship. You know what I mean? And yeah, like now I'm sort of found my way and sort of found my identity, and I believe from that person to now I'm like sort of, what's the word? Well-rounded person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Compared to, you know, and that's what I want to be year after year. Just always, you know,
you're moving away from that like tunnel vision Chico.
Yeah.
Where like obviously it worked for you in the way of footy in the past, but then you like broke down relationships and stuff like that. But now you're sort of at the YKTR, you also got like your footy career kicking back off, so you feel like you can tackle that the second time around, but you don't have to lose people in your life and stuff like that as well. You've got that knowledge behind you.
Most definitely. And what I've noticed what I've noticed a lot coming back to footy is obviously first things first, I'm not the youngest. I'm very old. I'm the oldest within the group, but so there'll be certain times in like when we're training that I noticed that I will always reflect on what I'd do in that situation if it was me back then. Yeah. And I'd always think, man, the old me was so trigger happy and always like very like sort of, I'd always like blame other people. Not blame other people, but I always get angry at someone else if they're not doing the right play. But yeah. Instead of taking the backward step and just like understanding the situation first, you know what I mean? And that obviously comes with experience. Yeah, 100%. So now I'm like well-rounded in that sense of I try not to always, I try not to shoot first and ask questions later. I try not to do that. And try to just understand what they're like, say for instance, if it's a forward and does a certain play, or I'll always try to understand why. Yeah. Like, you know,
taking the Ivan Cleary approach.
Yeah. Trying to take that approach, but obviously when it's in the battle, it's sometimes tough. But you know, always just trying to check myself a lot of the times, and other times I'd be like, oh fuck it, you know what I mean? He should know better. Yeah. Instead of like, okay, maybe go back and talk to him and try to come back to like bring yourself neutral, and then, you know, understand where both are, because if this situation happens again in the game, or whether it is might be different individual, could be like when we're out or something else, you know. If this situation happens in games, I know how to deal with it. Like, you know, I know how to deal with that person because maybe he doesn't like getting yelled at, or, you know, he generally does not know the play. So like, yeah, I'm just trying to head towards that type of person. And like now with like that all happening in my past, like I believe I'm a way better player. Yeah. In that type of sense, and a lot more centered, and a lot more like, you know, clear vision of how like the game should flow, or not game, but like how the plays should flow, or what my role is, you know, and just like how I approach different type of situations has changed completely. You know what I mean? And like,
It's pretty interesting, like how you talk about like Ivan Cleary having that real approach of like trying to learn from situations and not like random like just bursting out. And then you speak about Andrew Gray, how he takes that time to like attentive to you, ask you how you are, so like find out the situation. It's interesting that you sort of praise those people and bring those people up, and it's like it seems like you're on the journey to almost like follow in their footsteps rather than it's kind of sounds like Chico was sort of the other way. Like the old Chico was the other way, like where you said like shoot first and ask questions later, where those two people aren't like that.
Yeah, most definitely. I think and a really, really good players, you know, like, and then even like the really good like CEOs or people in other businesses, I generally like that. You know, like one of the players I really looked up to was WADA. You know what I mean? Like WADA is like a very much a calm person / you know, very head on, screwed on, assess the situation very well. Isaac's a lot like that.
Yep.
You know, at periods normally can be like that. At periods, you know what I mean? So yeah, like I've got like the people around me. It's just like with me and what I need to overcome. It's just going to take me a little while to
But it's always a journey, man.
It's always a journey.
It's always a journey. It's never stopping, bro.
So yeah, but now obviously going through them times, and now I'm back at trying to play in NRL. Got the opportunity with the Blacktown Workers, and I can't be more grateful for that little situation you got out there. So we haven't played a game thus far, but round 1's next week. So yeah, like everything's sort of gone full circle. And the thing is, like I don't have to. I believe I don't have to play to prove anything to anyone, but I just want to play because I love it. You know, and if I wanted to play just to come back and like, you know, to feed my ego or whatever, or that's my identity. I should just play park footy, you know, whatever. You know what I mean? The fact of the matter is, like, I'm always, even if my body couldn't work anymore, I'd still try to play park footy or anything, because the general love I have for the game, I just love it, and I think about it all the time, and it's just something that's always like, I always explain it as like my one true love, first love. You know what I mean? Like on the first love, one true love. You know what I mean? So obviously, apart from my partner now, but so.
Yeah, it's an amazing story, man. I'm really happy for you, and I hope you crack on, man, and get that NRL game. I'll definitely be there to watch it and support you. And and it's amazing also what you're doing at YKTR as well. You know, you've sort of formed your own little, you got your own little channel and stuff over there, and you're forming your own little content, which is sick, bro. And I'm super pumped for you for that, and I hope we've nothing but well wishes for you in the future, man.
Cheers, mate. Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Also, help yourself merch available. 100%. You know what I mean?
Give yourself a little plug.
Yeah, YKTRsports.com. Me and Simi stuff. If you don't follow YKTR, follow the content.
100, get to it. It's
we're just a clothing label trying to inspire a generation. Or just trying to, like, you know, we're the people's brand, trying to inspire change through clothing the way we all know how to. Obviously, we're going to make mistakes, but we're transparent with our customers and everyone around us, and we're just, you know, just kids trying to chase a dream.
Cop some merch, bro. Let's go. Thanks for coming on,
bro.
man.
Thanks for having me,
Appreciate it. Till next time, guys. Actually, do you want to give us a like, comment, and subscribe? You're pretty experienced with this, bro. Come on, bro. Give us a look down the camera. KB. Down the camera.
Till next time, guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. Cheers. KB.
See you guys next time.